Hello guys, welcome into another episode of Behind the Scenes and Journey into Backend Development. I'm your host Evans, and today we are going to look at the secrets of backend development where databases and technologies come alive. Every website can be split into two parts. We have the front end and we have the back end. The front end is the visual representation of whatever we see on our page. Then the back end stores and manages our data. For example, in the Amazon website, the backend stores our search results, our profile, our email, our address, our orders, and everything. Then every computer has the functionality or has the ability to convert its computer to a server. And to convert a computer into a server, we need to know some technologies that we can use. And to convert into a server, you are basically converting into a backend service. And to convert that, we need to know some technologies. We need to know JavaScript, we need to use Python, we need also to know Ruby, and we can also know Java for that case. To build this kind of website, after knowing this kind of technologies, we can look at the example here, one without a framework and then one with a backend framework. Without the framework, it's a little bit tedious, it will take a lot of time. In our case, we have several frameworks that we can use. For example, we have Node that is built with JavaScript, we have Django that is built with Python, we have Rails or Ruby on Rails that is built on Rails, then we have Spring Boot that is made of Java. This kind of frameworks will basically assist us build our website or our backend services with less time and with little amount of code. Now, to use these frameworks or to make use of these frameworks so that we can build a complete backend service, we need packages. And to build packages or to use packages, we have package managers. Basically, these packages will basically help us connect either database, connect emails, and all those kind of services. We have various packages, and our packages, we have npm that is used for Node, we have pip for Python, we have bundler that is used for Ruby, and then we have Maven for Java. These are not the only technologies that we need to build our backend. We also need somewhere to store our data. That's where database comes in. What is a database? We can define a database as a storage container where we store our text, where we store videos, where we store our images, and everything that we need to store in our database or any kind of data that we need to store. How do we connect these databases with our server? And remember, our server, we have converted our machine into a server. We send data to the server, then we receive data to the server. And this happens when we create a server in our local machine, then sends a request to the database, then sends back a response to the server. Before we go on and see how we connect these servers to the database and how you convert everything together into a program, we can look at several examples of databases. For example, we have the MySQL, Postgres, SQL, then we have the MongoDB. We also have other kind of databases, but again, depending on the functionality or the purpose of using that kind of database. Now, let's go back and see how this happens. We have a front end here, then we have a server, and then we have a database. How do the three communicate? We have the front end that sends a request to the server, then the server sends a request to the database. The database again sends a response to the server, then the server sends a response. Let's take an example of the YouTube. YouTube, we search, then that search sends that request to the server, then the server goes to the databases, fetches that particular video that you have searched, then returns to the server, then the server gives us the response back to our front end. This kind of cycle is called request response cycle. And this kind of cycle is what happens in most of the systems. We have the front end, we have the server, then we have the databases. So you send a request to the server, then send a request to the database, then the database sends a response, then the response from the server sends back to our front end. And this kind of communication is what we have called request response cycle. Let's look at some activities that you can perform in our database or in our application. You can either create, you can read, you can either update and delete a record. Previously, we have looked at the kinds of databases that we can use. What if you know that we have platforms that can give you this kind of services? For example, we have said you need to create a server, then after creating a server, communicate to our database. And this kind of database can be located in a different place. We have platforms as a service, companies and organizations that give this kind of services. For example, we have the Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform, and then Microsoft Azure. In this kind of platforms, they give you both the server and the database. This kind of databases will help us either store our videos, store our text, and store everything that we need to store. Another advantage of using this kind of platforms is that the server and the database are located in one place. That means it will give you a secure connection of both these data when fetching your data and your databases. It is more cheaper and less cheaper than installing your own server and then running your own services. We also have other platforms or software as a service that you can use or to rent your server, to rent a database. For example, we have Linode, where you can actually rent your server, install any operating system that you want to use, configure your server, and keep your website running. In backend, we have a lot of services or a lot of technologies that we can learn. For example, we have looked at the databases. The databases, as we have seen in the previous section, we have seen we can have a backup plan. Why do we need to have a backup plan? Here we have a primary database. A primary database is the one used to store our data. For example, let's say we have a website that deals with a lot of search. We don't need every time to query everything from our primary database. We need to have something extra, and this extra we can build or we can use Elasticsearch. Let's give another example. Let's say you are a data science expert, or you need to build a data science platform. In our data science, we have a lot of analytics. We don't need to query from the primary database. We can use an extra database or a backup database that is a Snowflake. Example of a Snowflake is an analytical database. This will help you improve your search, do your analytics, because our primary database is busy doing other tasks. It's busy doing other tasks like storing our data, taking new requests, storing new requests, sending emails, and all that. We need to build another kind of database that will help us do our analytical activities. In our next episode, we are going to look on how you can configure a database, how you can set up a database, and how you can actually run your server. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you like it, subscribe, give it a like, and see you in the next one.